Hey everyone, welcome back to my studio space where I'm continuing to work on my still life. I am done with the step where I'm working on my pencil sketch. So if I'm looking at these steps on BB9, I finished my pencil sketch and it's telling me that my next step would be to start my detail drawing. So those are the things that I want to prepare for in this video. So I'm going to practice a few things to get me ready for that step. So if I click on Step 4, detail drawing, I'm going to see a lot of information on here. So I am reading over this because this is exactly what I want you guys to do. I want you to reflect on my instructions here. So I need to pick out a drawing technique and my material. I already have that picked out, but I could start to think about using pencil, color pencil, ink, and it lists the drawing techniques here for you. So it lists cross hatching, value and shading, hatching, stippling, color mixing. So you can really use any material, but you have to pick one technique. So I am going to be working with pen. This is something I have not done yet this year, and it's something I actually haven't done for a long time. So I thought, what a good challenge for me to be able to try a drawing in pen. So I have my sketch in pencil, and then what I did is at the store, I made sure that I picked up a pack of 2 of the same pens so that if I run out, I have a big drawing here, then I have a backup. If I completely run out, I'm going to try and test other pens that I have around the house. Maybe you want to mix different colors of pens, and that's your idea for your drawing, and that's fine too. But you could also be using pencil, color pencil, any material, and I list that all in our project directions. So since I'm using pen, and I know that I'm going to be applying the pen to my drawing to make my drawing look realistic, I'm going to have to practice this technique first. So on here, I've decided that I'm going to use hatching and cross hatching. That's what I'm going to use for my drawing techniques. So what I'm going to practice is how can I draw the things that I'm seeing in my still life and draw them so that they look 3D. So I know that I have a book in my still life, and for that book I'm going to need straight lines for where the pages are. So that's where I could use hatching to make it look like the pages of the book. And then for the cover of the book, it's actually a darker cover. So I'm going to use cross hatching. So I'm going to go in the same direction that the pages were going. And I'm going to build up a lot of layers with cross hatching. So at first, I just want to start with all of my lines going the right direction. And then as I start to go over this and over this again and again, I want to think about my lines being nice and even. So if the whole cover of the book is the same like color, obviously I'm working with a black and white drawing now. So I want to start to think about, okay, the top of the book is darker and then the pages are lighter. So I want to create enough cross hatching on the top of the book to make it look dark. So eventually this technique will be on the top of my book here. This is going to be the darker area. This will be the lighter pages. One other thing I have to think about is 3-dimensional objects. So if I have my lines going straight across, it's going to look more flat. Another way that I could get this to look a lot more accurate though is by actually using a ruler. But I find it to be a little bit unnecessary if I'm working with a lot of lines in one space. So what I'm going to do if I want something to round, actually I'm going to take a pencil first. So I'm going back to my pencil really quick. And if I give myself a few lines that are rounded and I want to make sure, okay, I like how that's rounding. If not, I can erase it and make some changes. Then I can go over with my pen following, and I'm doing a lot more lines than I did with pencil, but I'm following that same curve. Then I can wait for that to dry, erase my pencil lines, and keep going. So this is just going to help me get that start that I like. And then if my pot, for example, so the pot that the plant is in has that rounded look, when I'm observing it in my still life, I want to make sure that I have darker lines on one side and lighter lines on the other. So what I'm going to do to be able to get that look is have a lot of lines towards the left-hand side of the pot. And then I'm going to do even shorter lines. So now I have lines that were about this long, and now I'm going to do even shorter lines all the way down, keeping them going that same direction. And then I'm going to create cross hatching. And next to the left-hand side, there's going to be a lot of lines really close together. But as I move further away, they're going to start to get a little spaced out, and that's what's going to help it look rounded and like it's getting darker towards this side and lighter towards that side. So I not only need to focus on my material and the technique, but also making it now look realistic. So that's going to be the really challenging part of this project. What material are you using, and how are you getting it to look like your objects in your still life? So another thing that relates to this technique is stippling. So if you were going to use a different technique from our list on BB9 and you decide to go with stippling, you'd want to think about stippling with all of those little dots. Right? That's what stippling is, as my easel shakes back and forth. And the more dots I have together, the darker that's going to seem. And then if I start to space them out, it's going to look lighter. So one thing that's helping me visualize how I'm taking my choice of material and my choice of technique is looking at examples. So I have examples on BB9 for you, but also look up still lives using colored pencils. Or if I'm drawing with, maybe you have pastels at home, still life drawings with chalk pastels, and searching for images to help you visualize what your drawing could look like. So I'm going again with stippling from dark to light. If I'm using a pencil, for example, I have an ebony pencil here, which is great for blending, but you can do this with a regular pencil at home. Maybe for the plant, for example, the pot that it's in, if it needs to round, I'm going to use that same technique with my lines curving. And then towards this edge is going to get a little bit darker. In class, we use blending stumps often to blend with, so if you have one at home, you could blend with that. So I have one here if I wanted to use this to blend. If you don't though, you have blending tools right here. So you're gonna take your hand and just blend that together. Okay, you might need a little bit more pencil to make everything look smooth. That's one benefit to using a blending stump. It kind of smooths everything out for you. But what you're gonna wanna watch for is all the pencil that starts to build up on your finger. Wash your hands as you work. Use different fingers for lighter spaces, different fingers for darker spaces. And of course, your eraser is going to be a tool then to lighten up areas that might get too dark. I'm even going to use my eraser on my pen drawing eventually to get rid of my sketch lines. So again, all of this is really great practice. I always suggest practicing with your material first. I also have another video posted on our BB9 site where I go over different drawing techniques. So that looks like this drawing technique sheet here. So I go over using colored pencils to create a few different techniques. So you can look for that if you think that you'll find that to be helpful for you. But otherwise, practice with your material before you apply it to your still life. Have fun exploring with your material that you choose. Remember, it's your choice. Choose something you want to work with and that you're excited about. And I can't wait to see what you all make.